Welcome everybody to our business meeting today. We're certainly glad to have you all join us, both in person and online, excuse me, not in line. None of you are in line. Okay, let me let me go ahead. Today is Tuesday, October 10th, 2023. We're convened today as the Provo City School District Board of Education. We're meeting at 280 West, 940 North in Provo, Utah, and we're going to begin our business meeting today with a roll call. We'll start down to my right with Derek.
Derek Anderson, Business Administrator.
Lisa Boyce, Board Member.
Terry McCabe, Board Member.
Jennifer Partridge, Vice President.
Rebecca Nielsen, Board President.
Wendy Dow, Superintendent.
Meg Van Wagenen, Board Member.
Gina Hales, Board Member.
Melanie Hall, Board Member.
Thank you so much. Is there a motion to convene our business meeting?
I move that we convene business meeting.
Thank you so much. Motion made by Board Member Partridge. Is there a second?
Second. Second
by Board Member Boyce. We're now in our business meeting. Okay, we are going to begin today with opening remarks, which is me. I'm on the opening remarks today, so that's fun. I just want to take a quick second to thank everyone who supports our students in their education, and that is from all the way from our superintendent down to every last employee in our schools. We just recently recognized our custodians. We had custodian appreciation. Was it a week or a month or
a day? But
a day.
A week.
Okay, I can't. Yeah. And it just is a good reminder to me about how many people it actually takes to educate our children. There are so many employees working here that you don't see their efforts. And you don't always know exactly who's involved. I know the teachers are kind of front and center, but besides the teachers, there's really a huge amount of people working to educate our kids. And I just wanted to take a minute with my opening remarks tonight to give a big heartfelt thank you to anyone who is involved in our kids' education. It really truly does take a village, and there's quite a few people working within our school district and working hard and putting in long hours. And I just want everyone to know that we appreciate all the work that is happening on behalf of our students here. So thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and also have a Pledge of Allegiance tonight, and we're going to have that led by Elizabeth Morris, who's a 5th grade student at Amelia Earhart. Is Elizabeth here? All right, Elizabeth, you can go ahead and come up to the podium here.
Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much for joining us, Elizabeth. We're happy to have you tonight. We are going to move on to our Community Connections portion of our meeting. We'll start tonight with our employee recognition. We're going to hear about our Provo Way Awards from Jason Cox, our Deputy Superintendent.
Thank you, School Board. I appreciate this opportunity. Every month when we get the opportunity to recognize people from either who are employees or are from the community and support us, it's just such a wonderful thing. It's a bright spot in my job, and I just love getting this opportunity to thank them. So tonight, I'm going to ask the following people to stand up. We have several people to recognize. We've put our video together, so I'll have them stand up. We'll go ahead and give them a round of applause. We'll watch the video, but then once the video is over, we would like to give these people, if they're here tonight, the opportunity to have the board thank them personally. So after the video, we'll have you come up here, start on this end, and we'll work across and let them thank you. So the people that we have this month that we're recognizing are Rick and Midge Johnson, Tiara Wakefield, Angela Warnock, and Emily Cummings.
Emily Cummings is a masterful occupational therapist and is a joy to have as a colleague. Emily demonstrates kindness and caring with students she works with and with parents. She is knowledgeable and articulate as she explains testing and other things related to a child's special education program, and does so in a way that helps parents to feel valued as part of their child's experience. Emily is amazing and is a great example of living the Provo way in everything she does.
Rick and Midge are married and retired professionals who understand the importance of education and supporting students. After all, their daughter, Heather Chatwin, works in Provo City School District as a school nurse. Even though they are both retired, when they heard that we were looking for extra support during our lunch recess time, they applied for the open positions as a way to support the local community. In the short time they have been at Spring Creek, they have established positive relationships with students and staff. They are here every day and go above and beyond in all they do. We are incredibly grateful for their support and the positive impact they are making in the lives of our students.
This will be my 5th year working with Tiara Wakefield at Timpanogos Elementary. Tiara has shown me what kindergartners are fully capable of. She is constantly looking for ways to improve her instruction and keep her students engaged through the school day. Rarely does a week go by where she does not mention something new or insightful she came across in her professional development. She meets students where they are at and uses her expertise, patience, and insight to figure out strategies to effectively get them where they need to be. Her classroom is a physical testimony of her disposition: calm, safe, organized, creative, and involved. Students know what to expect in her classroom and are excited to find out what each day's lesson will bring. Tiara has shown me what a highly effective teacher looks like, and I strive to meet her in that as her instructional assistant. Mrs. Wakefield, we love you. Thank you for everything you do in our classroom and at Timpanogos Elementary.
I nominated Ange Warnock because she has been the best example to me. I'm a first-year teacher this year, and as Angela's my team lead, she has just shown me what a perfect first grade teacher looks like, pretty much. She is she's incredible at classroom management. She's incredible at teaching goal-driven lessons. She's just incredible. I look at her and I'm just like, I want my kids to be in her first grade class one day. She's just incredible. I don't have the words to explain how incredible she is. She's just great. She's amazing.
All right. And we'd love to give them the opportunity or let the board thank them personally. So we'll have you come up and start right over here. Be careful of the cord that we have down in front, but.
Thank you so much. Seriously. Good job. I was watching you. You guys. Thank you so much. Hi, Tara. See you. Hi. Hello. Congratulations. Awesome.
Let's give one more round of applause to our What a perfect example of what I was trying to allude to earlier, which is all of the incredible people that work in our district. So thank you again. Okay, we are going to go ahead and have a school report from Amelia Earhart now. We'll hear from Principal Ryan McCarty on that. And before you start, Ryan, if you don't mind, I'm just going to announce to the public who are still here, if anyone is interested in giving public input to the board tonight, in order to do that, we'll just need you to fill out a form first. The forms are over here on this table, on my right, your left, and you'll just need to fill that out and hand it to our secretary, Bonnie, who's over here raising her hand. And I just wanted to just make sure you guys knew that before our school report, because as soon as we're done with that, we'll go for public input. So, okay, Principal McCarty.
Okay, all righty. Well, I don't necessarily love public speaking, but I do love Amelia Earhart Elementary. So if I'm going to speak about something, I'm passionate to speak about this. So here's just a little information about our school, some demographic numbers, and kind of our breakdown. We are a Title I school. These are some of the core principles that we want to instill in our students. Aviator on the left refers to attributes of an active and engaged learner that we really try to model our instruction around and help our students to learn how to do those. That learning is not passively sitting quiet, but those are all very active things to engage students. And then on the right side is our kind of more of our character building, respect, integrity, safety, and empathy. And these are things that we have songs for each of them. We have posters. We have praise notes that we give to our students to encourage and support and celebrate these attributes and behaviors. I'm going to share a few things just for some of our recent data. We don't have, actually, I think maybe Wendy has this data, but I haven't seen it yet. This next year, oh no, okay. This is 2022's data. And so one of the things that we were really excited about was our growth. We received exemplary in growth, and specifically the growth of our lowest 25% was high, which we're really excited about. This was our school grade for last year, a B. Obviously, we want to work towards an A, but we're happy with the progress and growth we've had. This is from this year, so this some of the data we've been able to get. And I'll talk a little bit later about kind of our overall proficiency, and we have some celebrations and some kind of focus areas. But one thing I was excited about is this is, for those who are familiar with this report, these is about 20 schools who have similar demographics to our school. And this is measuring growth scores. So when a student, like where they were the previous year to where they are now, right? You know, so it's not as much proficiency, but just taking a student where they are and how much growth can we get with that student in 1 year. And you can see that in each of them we're high, and specifically in mathematics, we were higher than all 20 schools, and in language arts there was only one of the 20 that were higher. So we were pretty excited about that growth as well. This is a snapshot of our master schedule, but basically just wanted to highlight a couple of things. We have intentional large blocks of Tier 1 instruction time set aside. The Tier 1 literacy blocks, particularly as the students get older, increasing more and more, and we see integration of science and social studies in that time. But really a big emphasis on trying to make sure we have effective Tier 1 instruction and time for that. And then the other times, the MTSS times in literacy and math, are times where we are able to differentiate our instruction. Teachers are part of both of those times as well, working with groups, typically emphasizing on our struggling students, the teachers with that time. But then we also have enrichment, and I'll talk about some of the other things that kids do to really try to differentiate that instruction. Here's an example of kind of like a model that we follow for literacy as we're looking to differentiate. And so you can see these are different assessments on the left, and then different types of interventions. So during that MTSS time, for instance, if a student was read on accuracy in DORF, which is like your Acadian or Dibble's oral reading fluency, then those would be different targeted programs that could be done either by an aide or a teacher that would focus on the skills that they need. And then as you work up, you see even students who are taking the STAR, which is a reading comprehension assessment, and Wonders unit assessments that show proficiency on that. Then we have enrichment opportunities for them during that time as well. And so really trying to, it's not just a focus on the students who are struggling, but really a differentiated time for all students. This is an example of some of the enrichment work that students in our art literacy enrichment classes do. These are just covers, but these students wrote written and illustrated books, and they get really passionate. In fact, I was just talking to Elizabeth back there, and she reminded me that she won. Each year we pick a winner from each grade, and we publish the book, and we put it in the library, so they get like a copy that they get to have, and then they get a copy that's in the library kind of as a little legacy. And she was reminding me that she won that just recently, so that's pretty cool. Our Earhart Literacy Community is a program that's targeted to help instill a love of reading in students. And so In the past, we had a program that was more focused on recording minutes read, but a lot of feedback from parents was that they hated filling out those charts and they normally just made it up anyways. And so we've really kind of pushed the daily reading accountability more between the teacher and that relationship. And the school-wide program is much more focused on exposing students to different genres and of literature each month, and then really trying to get them excited about it. So episode 5 from Sup with the Soup.
With the soup, yeah.
Highlighted that, and it was really fun to hear. And you can see some of the books from recent times. On the left, the lower left, those are tiles in our library. They're not really together like that. They're spread out, but they were just put together for this picture. And there's a lot more. And they are from past books, and they're part of our legacy 6th grade art. They create those to kind of as like a reminder of the books that we focused on. And then the middle picture is from an activity that happened last week that was related to the new book that was introduced. And so those are done in the class level, but all students participate, kind of like a uniform, but also individualized. So this is a little information about our wellness room. Our wellness room, we started with funding that happened through ESSER funds. It was a huge need that I've seen increase quite a bit since COVID, and you know, we've made it work this year, but it is something, you know, moving forward as we're looking at funding, it's something that makes me nervous to be able to keep, but I feel the need is really strong and really need that. But we have kind of 3 purposes for it. Some kids just need a sensory break. So this might be a kid that has ADHD or autism, and we build in daily breaks for these kids. They come down for periods of time, typically 10 minutes, and kind of reset and go back. Also, I mean, again, I don't have any data on this, but I would say 6 to 10 times more kids have anxiety that we're aware of since COVID. It's just really, really grown. And so sometimes we have kids, you know, especially in the morning, have a hard time leaving their parents or whatever. And the wellness room can be a chance for them to connect with the adult there. And really in those kids' situations, it's more about that connection time with the adult than necessarily like the sensory items. And then third, we have kids who maybe struggle with behavior, need a little extrinsic motivation, and this provides an opportunity for them to earn free time or prizes in there. And so the staff that runs that kind of has a multi-purpose with those different things. Our after-school program, so like a long time ago, I went to an after-school musical at a school, like, I mean, before I was a principal 15 years ago, and I was like, that is so cool. I want to do that someday. And so ever since I've been a principal, I've wanted to implement this in us, but you have to have talent, right? Like, and it's not me. Like, you have to have people who are talented to do that. And luckily, we have 2 incredibly talented teachers who were willing to dedicate time. Last year, we did The Lion King. We had 20 students participate. This year, we have 60 who are working on Aladdin. And we're so excited about it. But this student here, this was a quote from him. I came up after the first performance, and I was congratulating him. He's like, my dream is to perform, and it came true. And I was just like, yes, that is it. That's why we're here. It was awesome. So. Each year we do themes. It's kind of become a tradition it's hard once you start these, you can't like stop, right? Like, and we make a movie, and anyways, it's fun, and the kids like it, and you know the staff that participate in it like it, but it does create a lot of like creative pressure to keep coming up with them. But we typically focus on forward-thinking things. So some of them are like try everything or get back up again. Some of the themes we've done, the world's gonna know your name, like songs. You know, the man in the mirror. This year it was a Mario theme was the story, but the theme is I won't give up, and so teaching kids to persevere. And so anyways, you can track down those movies on our website if you so desire. But they're fun, and I think that they bring some unity in the school. Okay, here's some data. And I actually didn't realize this as I was reviewing for this presentation. I knew our data, but I didn't realize that the state, I kind of assumed that the state had made a lot of progress since COVID, because obviously COVID was pretty dramatic. I mean, we had that whole term gone. The next year was very different. And so I know our data went down quite a bit. I assumed that the states had followed it. But looking at this, I was proud of the fact that, we've made a pretty steady increase. If you look at from year 1 to year 3 here, 8%, 6%, and 9% growth in those areas where the state's been a pretty flat, like 1% growth. So I was pretty happy about that growth. However, math in specific, really all of these we need a lot of improvement in still, but math specifically is a big concern, especially where we made a big jump and then kind of went down a little bit. And so, related to our goals and focus for kind of PD for this year, is we're really trying to focus more on math. We've had a lot of focus on literacy for the last few years, and I think we've seen some growth from that, and we want to continue that. But we also want to engage in some targeted math improvement as well. And so some of our SIP, school improvement goals, are there, increasing our RISE percentage higher than it's been, and then the into math growth measure is an informal measure of our curriculum that we want to see some additional growth as well. And so some of the things that we did is I was able to have all of our teachers, not required teacher work over the summer, but all my teachers were willing to engage in this summer work. So through a program called Formative, we've created these common formative assessments that really pull from the Into Math module assessments, but also from the RISE benchmark assessments to really make sure that we're understanding what the level of rigor is that is expected of the standards. And then specifically where we saw a need is these students who still have holes, and sometimes that's related to COVID, sometimes it's related to kids moving in, sometimes it's related to kids who've been at our school and still have holes, right? There's lots of different reasons, but having these prerequisite skill assessments that then we use to remediate students ahead of the Tier 1 instruction to help them access it has been a big focus. I won't explain this long diagram, but that's what it does. So if you want to look at it more, it will make more sense, but I don't think you guys want the time taken to go fully into it. But the idea is that we're thinking ahead and that we are using that MTSS time to remediate prerequisite skills before Tier 1 instruction so that when students enter Tier 1 instruction, they're ready. And we've had, in fact, I have been checking with all of the PLCs in the last couple of weeks, specifically following up on the work in this. And we've had a lot of good reports about it. Teachers were sharing some of the data. They were sharing some of the kids who haven't made a lot of progress in the past on the module assessments have made a lot of progress on these prerequisite skills, and they feel like they can learn math, which is a big part of what we're trying to do. And so I'm excited about it. I hope it translates into some of the goals that we want to do as far as a school, but so far it's been exciting. Another thing that we're doing to help improve our Tier 1 instruction is once a month we have a meeting that's focused on micro-teaching, which basically means you have a group of teachers that plan lessons together. They each record a part of the lesson individually in their classrooms, and then when they come back together, they watch each other and reflect on the learning, and then we repeat with different focuses each month. And we found that in the past with our close reading to really help, and I think some of our growth happened from that, and so we're hoping to replicate that with math. And that is all. So thank you guys for listening to my report.
Thank you so much for being here. Are there any questions or comments from board members?
Well, I was surprised you didn't show up looking like Mario.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they looked really cute in the assembly, all of them dressing up as Mario and his friends.
Thank you. I never thought about that, but yes, that would have been fun.
I just wanted to compliment you, first of all, on this focus and the way you've got such great practices to really support, because sometimes we know we want to try to make an improvement in an area. It's so hard to figure out what to do and how to support those changes, so I love it. And I also really liked on your TSI plan that you had specific goals around students with disabilities as well as your ML students, and I don't know, I was just thrilled to see that clearly marked out as something you're intentional about. So anyway, I love the work you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Anyone else? Jennifer?
I echo, I love the report and just hearing all the good things you're doing, but also the focus on, you see where you can make improvements and are focusing on that. So thank you. I did have a question about the wellness room.
Sure.
Could you estimate about how many students use it every day?
So I have a document that kind of tracks the students who use it. Every day, I think it's probably between about 30, 35. And then like if you look over like a week or 2 week period, it's probably more like 50 or 60 kids that use it. So.
I actually have a question that goes, I actually had a question about the wellness room too. So since we're on that topic.
Sure.
I noticed in your presentation you said that it has two sides, one for calming and one for movement.
Yeah.
And I just wondered, is that distracting for kids if there's a kid in there trying to get calm and there's another one in there trying to move? And I just wondered how that works together.
I mean, obviously, in a perfect world, we'd have more, but that would be more staff and more space, and we don't. It hasn't been a huge issue, though, because I think that the calming side is much preferred. I would say, probably, I don't know, 15% use of the movement side, and so it's much less frequent. And we have a little tramp is most it, which isn't too noisy for the kids. So it's a good question though. And actually I'm gonna watch for that and see now, because now I'm kind of curious. But I haven't noticed it as a problem. But I'm gonna talk to our person and see if they're noticing. That's a good question.
Just curious. I just have two kids that are so opposite, and one is always calm and one is always, and crazy, and they clash. And so that's my first thought is like I see my two kids and how they would.
Yeah, I think I would say the most use is more of the calming sensory tools. We have like kinetic sand and things like that is probably used the most. And then the second is probably the connection, like those kids who just need a little bit more attention and the teacher is just not always able to give what they need, and they get that little time and it kind of fills their bucket and they're ready to go. But we do have a few kids that, they can get it. I think the other thing is they just learn to deal with it, right? I mean, like kids are pretty resilient that way, but yeah, it's a good question.
Thank you.
I just want to say quickly, I listened to the podcast episode and I loved it. And then hearing you talk about your themes that you do every year, I love how it's like community placemaking, and I think that is what makes our elementary schools great. So awesome. I love seeing that and hearing about that.
You don't have to say anything. I'm just kidding.
Good job. I actually had the same question about the wellness room, but I wasn't going to ask it, but I'm glad you did.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And I will just say thank you so much for your enthusiasm. I can tell that it just radiates in your school. So thank you so much.
That means a lot. I appreciate it.
And I do just want to make one last comment. I just found it comical and very fun that there was all the Mario group and Amelia Earhart.
Amelia Earhart.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw her.
Yes, that was the PTA helped us with that, and she actually came to our kindergarten first day, and it was a hit. She's going to be here to stay. Yeah, she was awesome.
I think she could blend in very well with the Mario crowd.
Perfect. Yes. Awesome. Thank you.
I just want you to know that when I went to Ryan's school, he took me around to different classes and let me read stories to the kids, which I don't do very often because they're elementary kids and I don't have a lot of experience with that, and they were amazing. But the best part was, I can't remember which grade level, if it was a 5th or a 6th grade class, but he is a master teacher, and so he got in front of the kids and we were talking about a quote that was tied to that theme. And just that modeling and that willingness to be in a classroom is so huge for teachers to see that you're willing to still do that, even though you're a principal, demonstrates that you're not afraid of that and you're willing to do the hard work. And that really impressed me. So
Thank you very much. Wow, that was very nice, guys. Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate all your work you're doing. Will you just take a message back to your staff and tell them thank you for all they do from us, from the board
Absolutely
members?
will do.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, have a good night.
All right, we're ready for our public input portion. I have one form so far, and if anyone else wants to give public input, don't forget there's forms there to fill out, but we'll go ahead and start by hearing from Dave Harding. And Dave, I think you might know the drill, but you'll want to state your name and what elementary school boundary you're from, and then go ahead and give your input.
Okay, excellent. My name is Dave Harding. We live in the Timpanogos Elementary School District. I wanted to give some public input, some feedback on the process. It sounds like you're starting to discuss the use for the old Dixon Middle School property. I just wanted to say thank you for being for working on this issue, this topic. It is very important, I think, to the entire city, and particularly to the neighbors who live nearby. Thank you for reaching out to it sounds like you're working on the process that you'll gather the public input. Thank you for that. That's, I think, very important. Thank you for not letting this issue languish and for the building just to go vacant. But at the same time, it sounds like you're also in the process of strategic long-range planning, and I would hope that that process, you know, the decision on what to do with the land could be a decision that has many decades of impact. And so I think it would be good to have that strategic vision before making any final decisions on how that property should be used. And I, you know, as one member of the community that lives nearby, you know, I hope all of us would give you that space and that time to make those decisions. I would love to see that property used in the best way possible, with a long-term vision, with a long, you know, in 20 years that it's being used as at the best for in that kind of time frame, even if it may take years to get to that point. And particularly if we can use it in the short term, you know, in a good way, but that allows it to be used for its best use in the long run, I think that would be helpful. And I've got 45 seconds left, so let me just kind of, I know you all know it, but the health of our district depends on the health of all of the areas in our district. And so if we can have strong and healthy, you know, each part of Provo City be strong and healthy, that's going to help the district overall. So thank you for your time and your service.
Thank you so much, Dave. Okay, and we don't have any more forms for public input, so we'll go ahead and conclude that portion of our meeting. Before we start our business items tonight, we're actually going to go ahead and finish up a few items from our study session that we were not able to complete. So we will go back to item number 14 from our study session, which it was the topic there was the proposals for our Dixon site. And we were currently in discussion about how we were planning to move forward. And I think we were at the point where we decided we wanted to talk to the community, the Dixon community specifically. I think the most recent suggestion was to go ahead and have a meeting specifically with that community and listen to their feedback. And so I think that's where we left off in our discussion, and we can go ahead and continue that now. So who would like to start?
I would echo what she said, that's a great idea to start that direction and listen and see what other options they may come to us, and then maybe then take those to the rest of the community.
Okay. Any other thoughts or discussion there? I agree. I think that's a really great place to start. I mean, we've laid out our needs and some of our ideas. It would be good, I think, to see if they agree with our assessment of the needs of their neighborhood, because those were mentioned in our presentation. So I think that would be good to take it to the neighborhood and find out if they feel like that covers what they feel their needs are, or if they have more. And then I feel like it would be great to get their input on the ideas we propose, but also what other ideas they may have that will help both their needs and our needs. Tina?
And I think we need to be conscious of everything we have going on. So we have so many surveys, so many committees. I'm not saying put this off because it's important, just like everything else we're doing is important, but board member Will, can't remember his last name because my brain is dead, Widener, brought up in between the meetings was that we are doing so many things, and so I do worry about fatigue, right? Fatiguing not just us, but fatiguing the community. So I'm really torn as to what to do. It needs to be a timely decision, and at the same time, you don't want to rush it, but then you can't rely on other future boards. I mean, but anyway, I don't know what I'm saying.
Meg and then Jennifer. Sorry, I happen to be be looking that way.
Well, yeah, I'm wondering if, thinking about the strategic plan process, like, what if we did our first community meeting with the Dixon community like in January? You know, that way we kind of get that moving, and then we're getting closer to the end of the strategic plan, and then that strategic plan will guide, hopefully, this long-term planning for the site, so that we really are making the best use and not rushing it, because yes, balancing out that we want to make sure this is a priority moving forward, but not rushing it and then being like, oh, we need to be, just plan it out really well.
Well, that actually leads into, I was going to ask Wendy what your thoughts are on the timing of it, because I was thinking the exact same thing about, we don't want to fatigue, we have a lot going on.
Everyone seems to be so worried about me being tired.
We want to keep you.
I actually just wrote down before you said it, Meg, January would be, I think towards the end of January would be super helpful, simply because we will have had 3 meetings with the steering committee by that point in time, and the steering committee and the consultant for the strategic plan will have worked with the board at 2 different meetings. So we'll have kind of a better idea of where we're headed. The portrait of a graduate will start to formulate. So I think that would demonstrate that, especially if we get it scheduled and ready to go, it demonstrates that we're making that commitment, but also letting the strategic plan guide us. So that's my thought.
I think too, I just want to put in my 2 cents here. Even if we started with the neighborhood meeting next week, these things just take a lot of time, and we're already not well into, but we're into the process of our strategic plan. So I feel confident that even starting it sooner than January, the process on coming up with the correct plan for the Dixon site would still end after our strategic plan, right? So I think it's okay for them to overlap some, but I think January, I was actually thinking January as well, and I feel like great minds think alike, so very good. Okay, so January sounds fabulous to me too. Go ahead, Lisa.
Yeah, I just would love if like a couple people want to be in charge of the format of this meeting. Not me, because I'm not organized like this, but how do we make sure we really hear people and we record people's input, and so that we can use it to really inform us in a meaningful way? And I don't want to hash that out with everyone here, so that's why I was just thinking if someone wants to kind of take lead on the thoughts around how to organize that, how to make sure that those meetings are accessible in languages they need to be in for people to give feedback, or whatever we need to do. Just who, is that Wendy's job? Is that someone on the board takes the lead on a job? I don't know.
I did have some thoughts on that. You and I are on the steering committee for the strategic plan, so I think you and I are out when it comes to running anything for the Dixon site. I think that Gina and Meg were already somewhat involved in trying to get together the committee and whatnot, so maybe I'm volunteering you, and I shouldn't, but that was just a
take it on. I don't know if Gina.
If Meg takes the lead, then I can jump on board. If you make me take the lead, I will quit.
Okay, I will take the lead, but you can't take it over for me because you're really.
I volunteered Terry as tribute to help with that.
I think. What is the sign they do that or whatever? Yeah.
But I know you would add value, so.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that, I'm not saying that Meg and Gina have to do it. I just know that you were already kind of working on that, so maybe since you've already been working on it, that might be good. But I don't know if Melanie or Jennifer or Terry have any special interest in doing it as well. But like we were talking about earlier, we can all show up to these meetings. We just kind of need someone to take point.
We can get the framework and think of ways that we can get the most input and make it so that we really gather in a way that we can really use it.
And maybe you don't want us to do this, Wendy. Maybe you, I don't know.
No, I was just going to suggest that if like Terry, Gina, Meg, and I wanted to meet and we could start to hash out kind of the details of what that looks like, and then I think it would be good to get the full board's feedback as to what that format might look like, and see what else you're hearing from constituents about what would be helpful to them. When I'm thinking about like what does the community need, you know, I'm always thinking about it from the perspective of a school district, but let's think about what the community needs and then figure out how we can mesh those two together so it's something that fulfills the needs of the district as well as the Dixon neighborhood. I think would be really important, but I think we could just meet together and kind of
Wendy,
work through that.
Probably already worked. Sorry, probably in your head about this, but I would also suggest that our communications team could help with that.
Yes, they can. Look at them. Thumbs up back there.
We're volunteering everyone tonight.
Love it.
So then it sounds like, do we feel good moving forward with Gina, Meg, Terry, and Wendy getting together to hash out some details and start to plan the format of the meeting, and they can get together and plan for January and kind of just start working on that, and then seeking feedback from the rest of us once you kind of have a little bit of a plan in place.
Yeah.
Me-
I agree
Melanie?
with that. I have a different thing to go along with this.
Okay.
I don't know if this is even possible, but with the 4 options that we presented, is there any way we can put a estimated cost to those? I mean, that's, sometimes they look great, but you know, the 7 through 12 STEAM school is going to be a lot more expensive than some of the other options. And so I don't know, sometimes this is where my more mathematical brain comes into mind, where I make a decision because of, okay, this is the cost or something. I don't know, but I know that there's a lot of ifs and buts in there, so I just don't know if that's even a possibility.
I mean, we can look at already like what a cost is of a middle school or a tech center or something like that in comparison to, say, a district off. I mean, there's like a huge difference in the overall cost. So we could at least give them a perspective of what that would look like.
I think that would just help with this, with some of the discussions and decisions.
On things like this, when we're in the hypothetical scenarios, typically you just list a range, right? This building could potentially be from 40 to 60 million, right? So that way there's a range, because it's really going to be dependent on the final programming and size and everything. So
that was my only thing.
Okay, does everybody feel good about that? Okay, any final comments or questions or anything regarding the Dixon property and going out to the community? Okay, we'll move on to item 15, which is Camp Big Springs.
If you'll bring that up, Bonnie, or whom, yes, all my awesome tech people. We need to start having a conversation about Camp Big Springs. I've received a couple of emails from constituents kind of wondering what our plan is for that, and so we wanted to talk a little bit about some of our ideas, what our current situation is, and get some more direction on what we want to do. And maybe it also is something that has to fall into our strategic plan as well, as part of this. So I'm still waiting for them. That's okay. Do you want me to just go? Do y'all have it? We have to have it on the screen for everybody else. Oh, it's not in color. So sad. It was so pretty. That's okay. Okay, so imagine it in a really great colors, because it's like in blue and green. It's pretty amazing. So, all right, our current situation is that we do not have platforms for students to sleep on at Camp Big Springs. So if we are going to do an overnight camp, we do have to go in and rebuild those platforms. And I do have Chad here, so if we have questions that I can't answer, which is likely, Chad's going to come into the rescue and help me out. The shed was also ruined in the winter, and so we need to rebuild that to store the items for camp. We have talked about Alpine and Nebo districts doing similar camps. Alpine does no longer do an overnight camp. It is only a day camp now. So just kind of keep that in perspective. And then districts in Salt Lake don't do things like this. And so part of our deal is we need to make some decisions about our next steps. So importance to the community and fiscal responsibility, we need to find out how important this is to the community and how important it is that it is maintained in the same way that it always has been. What aspects of the activity are the most critical components to maintain? Is it the overnight piece? Is it the day camp piece, what are the pieces of, is it just the outdoor learning components that are the most important? As our range, see, I'm going to go with Derek's idea here about a range. It's at least $100K to rebuild the shed and platforms, and could, depending on what options that we choose in terms of buying additional land or things like that, could cost as much as $250,000. So we put in there greater cost for other options. We do recommend that the board make a commitment for the summer of 2024 that we will hold at the very least a day camp at Camp Big Springs for our 5th grade students, and that students would attend during the day, but there would be no overnight camping. If we can get the site rebuilt or find an alternative location, then we could adjust that. But I think that at least would allow people to know that we are moving forward with some decisions. And then we have some options. So option 1 is obviously to rebuild our current site. It might not be ready for 2024. Oh, it's in color now. Oh, I'm so happy. Okay, those little things make me excited. Okay, it would be ready. It could be ready by 2025, and so that would be option 1. Is that we keep it there. Chad did a really nice job of kind of outlining some of the benefits to this in terms of what the city has provided, that there's water access, and we can go into more specifics about that. It does have a lot of things that we would already have in place that we've had in place for quite some time. Option 2 is we could purchase an alternative site that is ideal for our needs and meets the goals of the program. The concerns would be the cost. We would need a realtor. We would probably need to build some infrastructure, and what is happening with land prices. And so the question that we have is this really the fiscally most responsible thing to do? What does that timeline look like? How far away would it be? Would there be transportation issues tied to that? Maybe it would be a better long-term investment, but it's going to be a much bigger upfront cost. And then option 3 is we talked about contracting with an outside agency where there's lots of Forest Service camps and different things that we could contract with for a day camp. It's probably not going to be accessible for an overnight camp, and then the cost is going to change from year to year. So we're kind of subject to whatever that contract would look like. So our suggested next steps would be to make an interim decision for the 2024 school year to adopt this commitment to at least have a day camp. Give us some time to receive some feedback from our constituents, identify our funding sources. I think our strategic plan also falls into this. Like how is this fitting in with our goals, and how does it support our community, and then determine a long-term solution. So that's kind of where we're at. What questions can I answer for you?
Are you looking for us to make that interim decision today? Tonight?
You could, or you
That's
could,
a yes.
or I would prefer it. We need to kind of move on it. So, yes.
So there's no possibility of having the platforms and everything this summer, correct?
Go ahead, Chad. Here we go.
Come on up, Chad.
He's so nice to have been here.
Thank you, Chad.
Obviously, with spending 30 years at camp, I have a little bit of opinion on this. Plus, I have a lot of passion for it. So there are an army of people I could get there to build those platforms. Bill and I have built 4 1 year, he and I ourselves. So I believe we could rebuild the platforms. The money is an issue. I don't know how much that would cost. It's probably between $20,000 and $40,000 to buy the lumber to do it. I know I could get the city to commit to helping with that as well. The city helped me tear the shed down. We did, well, it's not a shed, it's really a warehouse. We call it a shed, but it's a warehouse. They helped me tear that down in a day. We tore the whole top off, and literally we lost 0 equipment in that process. It's all currently stored in storage units right now, which is costing us about $1,000 a month, so we're about $12,000 in storage units. Some of it's in Grandview, which, we all love that carpeted gym area. Timpview loves it too right now, so it's kind of getting used for all kinds of things. But I'd love to see that turn into a warehouse for tech and camp at some point, but that could change. So the problem with having it stored down here is just takes a lot more time. We have to do several truckloads up, and we used to do it that way. In the old days, all the gear was stored under schools. So the tents were under Mazer, the poles were under, the tent poles were all under Joaquin with the chairs, the tables were under Grandview. So that's how we used to set camp up. So it's not like we can't do it that way. It's how we used to do it. The city acquired the property down below where they have the park now, and the warehouse came with it. So the city just said, hey, we know you do camp and you store it under your schools. Do you want to use it? And they've let us use it since '94. So it's been in use for a long time. Really sad to see that collapse. I put so much of my life into that stupid warehouse. It was sad to see that go. But we could rebuild it on site. I don't know how good the foundation. We'd have to have somebody assess the foundation, see if we could build it on that again. The city's also talked about giving us land down below potentially that we could put it, which would be way better. So there's options. I mean, we can keep it in storage units for now until we make final decisions. But my recommendation was, I'd say we go for it. I'd say we go for trying to get the platforms built. Weather could cause an issue. If we had a winter like this one, we'll be in trouble because our time frame to get those platforms built, a lot of it's dependent on that too. So there's a risk in that. But anyway, any other questions on that? I can give you a history lesson, but
I guess I have a question.
Yeah.
A day camp program up there, I'm not super familiar with Camp Big Springs programs because we moved here when my kids were mostly older. But do you feel like if we didn't have all of this in place, we could still kind of run a meaningful Big Springs program with a day camp option?
Honestly, at camp it'd be hard because you can't really get buses up into camp. You have to hike in. It's about 1.5 mile to 2 mile hike into camp. So you'd have that aspect. You have to hike them in and out, which would cause a problem. Using that specific property for a day camp, I think would be difficult.
Going along that line, so do you think by doing a day camp and eliminating the sleeping over part that more kids be willing to participate? I'm just throwing, it's never been an option really, I guess.
Right. So right now, just we get about 50% participation, which I think is pretty dang good for an optional program. But that's about what we've been getting. We've tried to up that number. We've done tons of campaigns. Bill's ramped up going out to the schools and really tried to get more numbers. That's about what we get, and it's pretty consistently at 50%. We have the data to show that.
Yeah, but I'm just wondering if there's no sleeping over part, would parents be more willing to up that?
But I also
and
think
get
that's
more
part
kids
of,
to do it.
To me, that's part of the magic of it. That's camping. That's your campfire. You're doing skits. You're spending time with your classmates. So, we could do that. Absolutely, whatever the board directs us to do, we can do. But I think that's the magic of what we do. It is the overnight experience. But it's just me.
No one knows what to do.
So what I'm hearing is, if we say we're at least committed to doing something, even if it has to be a day camp next year, but if in the meantime we decide we want to go ahead and rebuild those platforms, there's a possibility if the weather cooperates that we could get them in place for camp this next year.
Yeah.
Okay.
The problem is when do we put out registration for the
I
families?
usually put dates out now in October.
Okay, so we would need to know now if we're doing a day camp or if we're doing an overnight camp, and that's hard to know.
It is hard to know.
We don't know if it's going to snow a lot or not, right? So
I think if you were going to do it, you just put it out for a day camp, and then if it switches, we can look at it at that point. If a ton of kids sign up and it's a day camp, then just keep it as a day camp.
But it doesn't sound like there's a location for a day camp.
The other problem with that is the amount of work we do in preparation for camp. Literally it goes October clear into June. We have to arrange all kinds of stuff to make it work. So
whatever we choose tonight, we need to stick with.
Right.
Because the prep is going to be.
We can't choose having it rebuilt and stick with it because winter could show up in 2 weeks, right? And that would slow the work to rebuild. Is that true? If we had a terrible winter, so.
Every year we've done it, we do it in May. That's when we've rebuilt the platforms. And maintenance, with Derek and Kyle's help 2 years ago when we did camp, and we had several platforms broken, because remember, during COVID, we didn't do camp. So we had 2 years of just everything going into disarray. Kyle's department came in and saved me. And we were able to rebuild 4 of the platforms at that point, just with maintenance and me. But like I said, there are so many people passionate about this. I think we could get literally an army of volunteers to come rebuild those, including the city. I'll donate my time, But again, if snow goes clear into May, which is unlikely, it could. But we've never had an issue in the 30 years I did it of rebuilding platforms when we needed to in time.
Can I ask another question about how many employees do we pull off of other assignments to help support this?
Like it used to be a lot more until I started warehousing everything. Once we moved to a warehouse scenario, we used some transportation drivers to drive the truckloads up and back from the warehouse. We use a few from my department, 3 of us. We used to use a lot more of us, but when we started warehousing, we cut that number way down. So we have transportation, we have a few technology, we have maintenance department. Am I missing anybody? I think that's mostly what goes up there. Maintenance has been doing a lot more over the years. They were kind of out of the picture. It was just me doing all of it. The electrical, the plumbing, all that stuff was me. But with maintenance helping the last several years, with Derek's help with Kyle, it's been amazing. So.
If we commit to rebuilding the platforms and going forward with it, does that mean we're committing to just continue doing the camp the way it is now?
That was going to be my next question too. Is it off the table to look into other locations or to?
Because Chad, did you say that there was a property closer down
no,
lower?
but it's not a property for camp. It's a property for the warehouse.
Oh, okay.
Derek, do you have?
Just if we rebuild them, I mean, it would just be a sunk cost, right? Is whether you use it for 1 year or you decide to continue using it, but it would be a cost that essentially, whether it's a 1-year cost or a plan to continue using it, you just have to look at it as if we're rebuilding them this year, that was the cost this year, because there's usually costs to rebuild them multiple years, right? Like how we had to repair them a couple years ago. So it's just more of one of those things of, is it a commitment to rebuild them right now, and then essentially just keeping that commitment. So, and you have to look at it as essentially a disposable use, right? Because they do break. And so, from that standpoint, in terms of the cost to rebuild it, that's kind of a annual assessment. Are you wanting to hold a camp that's overnight and up there? Then vote to replace them. If you don't want a camp that's overnight this year and you want to do a day camp and put a pause and really assess what the strategic plan and what the public's input is, and really what the long range appetite is in terms of how much we want to sink into the program for the public's response to the survey and the strategic plan, that would give you kind of a better idea of what really kind of an investment to look at. So,
is there a reason why we can't register kids later than right now?
Well, we don't register the kids yet. That doesn't happen until April.
So when you're getting information out, you're just getting the information out at this time.
Yeah, and then we're starting the process of arranging everything else.
People are already planning their summers, right? So we need to get the dates.
But keep in mind too, other districts, most of them have cabins. These are Army tents the kids are sleeping in, which to me gives it more of a true camping experience. But it's pretty much run on a shoestring. I mean, we don't spend a whole lot of money to run camp. And I've only asked for capital improvement about the last 5 years or so during the camp season that we've actually done camp. I didn't do it prior to that because we had, we were just bought old surplus Army tents. Well, they've been harder to get lately, and so we had to buy some new ones, and they're about $50,000. So we used some capital improvement money for that. But largely, we don't really need a whole lot. These platforms are probably one of your biggest yearly costs.
Did the tents survive the?
That's what I was just going to ask too. Yeah.
What's that?
Did the tents survive?
Tents survived. Everything survived. Like I said, we lost 0 equipment, so everything can still be set back up. It's the platforms that really are going to set us back. And then whether we want to rebuild that warehouse or not is up to the board as well. What you want to do there. I mean, we could live out of storage units. We could do that. It's a lot cheaper than rebuilding it. But yeah, I think Derek's assessment of 100,000 for that warehouse is probably pretty accurate.
And just keep in mind that this is, depending on how it is that's structured, increases risk to the district or decreases risk based on how things are set up, right? And so if you house overnight camps, you will increase your risk just due to the current climate today, right? So that is something to keep in mind.
We also give some students opportunities that they may not have otherwise.
Thank you.
Some of them don't camp with their families.
They don't get to.
Yeah.
Do we feel like you need more input from the community, or do you feel like you have a good pulse on what people think?
Yeah, I feel like it's undoubtedly people love Camp Big Springs, everything that I've heard. It's not, I can't speak to the population I've surveyed, but most people, actually I've never heard anyone.
Only 50% are signing up. So I'm just, what about the other 50%? I love Camp Big Springs. My kids all went to Camp Big Springs. I'm just thinking about the other 50% that don't get to participate. And I do know I have some constituents that they didn't participate because of the overnight part. So I don't know. I'm a fan of Camp Big Springs, but at the same time, is this an opportunity for us to maybe even just survey and say, which would you prefer, a day camp or the regular camp?
We could just ask that simple of a question, right?
Right.
To our surveys.
So many
I know, another survey, but this would just go out just to the 5th grade parents for this year. I mean, we wouldn't be doing the entire.
That's true.
I think you'd want to ask everyone, because I don't have a 5th grader this year, but I will next year.
Right.
That's a good point. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think for this next year we should just do a day camp, because we've never done it before, and see how much do we get over 50% kids, parents signing up, because it's not an overnight. The one thing we would need to determine is, where is it going to be? Do we want to do it at Pueblo Canyon, or do we want to do it at a school? I think we should do a day camp next summer.
I can see that, like, as a, like, prototype of something. There is a startup cost, though. Like, it's to do a day camp in a meaningful way for a district-wide grade level experience is no small task in terms of man hours, expense, facilities, risk. So it's tricky to commit to it for 1 year, unless you're saying run kind of what they do.
Yeah, just do
but
everything.
I feel like that's hard to do, not up somewhere up in the woods. Not really the woods. I've been in New England for so long, but you know what I mean. Like,
Mountains.
I'm just trying to think of the logistics of it. So it feels like a decision that would be hard to prototype for a year, because of the amount of effort it would take to do a good job that year, and to evaluate if it was successful or not. Because you would want to run your best ever day camp if you were really going to make a long-term decision of 50 years of Camp Big Springs versus our prototyped day camp. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay.
That's just tricky for me.
I'm going to give my 2 cents, and then I'll let Will give his comment. I'm okay with pausing on the warehouse, and just going ahead and trying to fix the platforms, like Derek said, and that could end up being a sunk cost. But we've got a system, we've got a tradition, and if we can get those platforms, we're good, right? We can run camp as we have in the past. That doesn't mean we have to take off the table the option to look at something different in the future, or perhaps a different piece of property or whatnot. But we can still go ahead with our tradition. We can still have something on the table. We don't have to take what we have and try to condense it down into a day camp, or try to find out where we're going to do the day camp. But we can still leave all these options on the table. It'll still be a topic of discussion. I think that a problem we still need to solve. But for now, I feel like we can move forward with it. Fix the platforms, leave the warehouse out of it, because that's expensive. For now, we work out of the storage units, and then we continue this conversation. That's my 2 cents. But Will, did you have a comment? You want to come up here?
Mike, he needs a mic. Bonnie's mic.
So when I went to Camp Big Springs, absolutely loved it. I would say we have to keep something in place. I do think a day camp, it does kind of remove that magic, where it was an entire week just being in the mountains, and I actually had a lot of friends who were also there. It was a really fun experience. I say let's go ahead, let's just rebuild the platforms, and like Rebecca said, we can always look at further options, but I think we do need to have something in place for this summer. Okay. Thank you.
Gina, and Meg, sorry, I saw Gina's hand first.
What, so if I'm not opposed to that at all. If we say this and then it snows a lot, and I have been reading articles that it's going to snow a lot, and we can't get them built, what happens? Is that where we just cancel?
Well, that's what we've done before. I mean, we
Okay.
would have to just cancel again.
Yeah, can we just communicate that caveat, like that, this is what we're deciding, these are the factors that we can't control? And maybe we'd get some input if that's the announcement we make, or that's the decision we make.
I think that's always on the table, the option. I mean, we had to just cancel when it was COVID, and, you know, like, and we had to just cancel this year. So it's kind of technically always on the table, right? So.
I haven't asked my constituents about this at all, so I have to be frank that if we could maybe get wherever we need to get it in 2 weeks at that study session, is that, I'm not trying to postpone, does that do harm to wait 2 more weeks? I guess I would love to reach out to maybe the schools that in my neighborhood and people and just hear from them a little more, because I feel like I'm not well informed in terms of that connection, but that's just me.
Well, and to rebuild the platforms, you wouldn't necessarily need board approval unless it starts going over the $50,000 mark. So, but I think we could still kind of move in that direction, but it could give you some time to get some feedback specifically, and then we could just share if, you know, what you hear, and if we feel like this is really the right direction to go. I do think waiting 2 more weeks probably would be a good thing, just to make sure. So.
I have one more question. Chad, I really love how much you've dedicated to this program. My one concern is I hope you're here with us forever. But like, can we continue to do this program the way you guys have been resourcing it and doing it? Like, I want to make sure that we continue it in the future. Like, will it actually cost more when other people are running it, or?
Really camp's pretty easy to do. I mean, to be honest, I mean, if I can do it, anybody could do it. No, I'm just kidding. But
I guess, are you getting somebody, going to pass the torch on to
well,
somebody?
yeah, and that's what we've been trying to work on the last couple of years, is finding somebody to pass the torch on. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to have your technology director being the camp director, you know, as well. I mean, summer's my busiest time, so it gets a little difficult. But I love it so much, I'll do it. You know what I mean? But I pretty much didn't make changes when I took it over, and that was about 12 years ago. I mean, Marlon Palmer, he was a teacher up there for, I don't know, 20 years, and then the director for about 20. And we didn't make any changes from when he did it. I mean, he has this thing set up to where you have a good amount of classes, you have a good amount of fun, you have hikes, you have campfires, it's so well set up. It's neat to be a part of it. In fact, if we do it this year, I've convinced Jared that he needs to go be a teacher up there for a week so he can see exactly what this is about, because a lot of people don't get to see that perspective. So I think it can absolutely be the torch can be carried on by other people, and we'll make sure that happens. But like, if I had my way, I'd say never build cabins, because I love the true camping experience.
That's because you're weird. So
it's cool. I know I am weird, but this is.
I'm just gonna say it out loud. That's because you're weird.
Wendy.
I would
Thank
love
you,
to go up there and teach there, but I will not stay overnight there.
Dang it.
I could loan you some shoes.
I would stay in a tent.
I do have one other question. So some principals have said to me that there have been kids that have not been able to participate because of cost, or so I'm new.
Yep.
So tell me how that's working,
Okay, so-
because if we're having a huge discrepancy where we're saying that 50% are participating and it's because 50% can't pay, that's gonna bug me.
Yeah, so it's not about pay. So we do a scholarship. So this has been going on, I don't know, Shauna, how many years have we done it's been part of the golf tournament, where a lot of the money raised at the golf tournament goes to pay for scholarships for kids. So we haven't turned away any kids for money that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Sometimes kids worry about camping gear, but we can get them gear if they don't have the gear to use. But a lot of times what happens in June is there's family vacations, there's all kinds of things, baseball tournaments. You used to be surprised, Rebecca can attest to this.
I've picked up my kids
Baseball in
from
June is
camping
insane,
times.
and trying to get kids at camp, a lot of times that does it. But there's also a group of kids that just don't want to camp. You know, just camping doesn't sound like something I want to go do.
So do we literally have enough space for every single student to participate, every single fifth grader to participate if they wanted to?
No.
Okay.
No, because we can serve about 150 kids a week, so it ends up being about 600. Our population in Fifth, I don't know, Derek could probably look up the number right now, but it's usually around 1,000, 1,000, 1,200.
But for history's sake, for your sake, for history's sake, we ran Camp Big Springs for 3 weeks, three sessions for quite a long time, and then a few years ago we expanded that to 4 sessions so that we could accommodate more kids.
Yeah, I created a waiting list that year. It was absolutely brutal. I wouldn't recommend that again. I had a lot of people upset that year because they're like, oh, my kid wants to go. And yeah, so the waiting list actually gave us data to say, could we do a 4th week? And because we had so much want for it from the community, we added a 4th week.
Okay.
And then since we've done those 4 sessions, we haven't officially filled up all 4, right?
Not,
so like
not quite. We came really close.
So we have more capacity than demand.
Yeah. Part of that too, you have to think COVID, 2 years not doing it, you kind of lose your critical mass, people who, hey, my brother went, so I'm going to go. So you started losing a little bit of that. It would come back. I'm confident that our numbers would come back to normal.
I'm actually not worried about the numbers coming back to normal. I'm worried about kids being excluded because there's not enough spots.
And superintendent, just so you're aware, one thing we talked about too, and this is something that NEBO did when, if they got their numbers high enough, we could start doing 2 sessions per week instead of, there are options, there are ways to do it. The only stipulation you have at this particular location is June's our sweet spot. You start hitting July, it's too warm and we lose water. So there's issues like that you run into if you go too late into the season. But there's things like that we could do. So we could find a way to accommodate all the kids if the demand was there.
So we need to brainstorm that if
right.
necessary. Okay.
And I think that goes to what Rebecca said earlier, is we could say, hey, we're going to move forward and put in the money for the platforms now for this year and buy us a couple years to figure out long term, do we want a different site that maybe we don't have to worry about only doing it in June or snow issues or things as much, right? Yeah.
I just want to reiterate too, though, that this is, again, I love Camp Big Springs. Just does it fit in our strategic plan, and does it fit the educational needs? I just want to make sure that we're really highlighting that part too.
This is a plug for Big Springs. If you haven't gone up to Big Springs and spent a day there, everybody should. I've spent a couple days at Big Springs, and
did you sleep outside?
I did not sleep there, but I did
okay,
the hike.
I just want to make it clear.
Brutal. Okay. I'll just say that the hike is brutal, but
so great.
It's straight up the mountain, and I was sore for like a week. But the classes are awesome.
They are
the
awesome.
educational component of it is really great. So there's a lot of great stuff that I believe could absolutely fit within our strategic plan, whatever that.
Right. And the quality of the teachers we've attracted up there, and Bill Sprunger running, I mean, we really have a neat staff that runs that up there.
But to your point, Melanie, for sure, we would want to see how it fits in as soon as we're done with our plan. So for now, this feels like a temporary plan, and then we can absolutely evaluate again, which I think we should.
So if I'm understanding correctly, we are going to get feedback, and then in 2 weeks, you will report back if there's anything different, if we're having significant backlash that we don't want to do this. And then at that point, we would go ahead and start the process of rebuilding just the platforms and go from there. Is that what I'm hearing? Okay.
Yes.
Just want to make sure.
And you don't have to wait 2 weeks for me. Genuinely, I mean, these.
I think it's a good. I think it's okay. I think it's okay to make sure. Just pause and make sure.
It's actually probably good for you to find out, because I feel like I understand what my community loves about Big Springs or whatnot, because I've been in the group of moms sending kids up, but it would be good for you to hear, honestly, because I think you'll find, I suspect you'll find that people love it.
Yeah.
I hope.
And Lisa, you and I are gonna go up and
spend a day.
We'll do it.
We'll do it. Not overnight.
Please.
We'll spend a day.
We would love that.
No tents.
I would stay.
No.
But don't bring the rain with you. Rebecca and Melanie, whenever they come, they bring the rain, bad rain every time. So.
And it's not just any
Don't do
rain,
that.
it's like torrential downpour.
Every time. All right.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
Awesome. Okay, on our last 2 items left in our study session are our consent calendar and our upcoming Google Calendar items. So very quickly, are there any questions on our consent calendar?
On the actual calendaring items, I noticed that spring break is not on there. I don't know if that matters, but it's not on there.
Okay. Are you talking the Google Calendar?
I didn't even know it was due. I mean fall break. I meant fall break. I'm wanting to fast forward time.
Okay.
Fall break.
Fall break, everyone, 19th to 24th of October. Just make note of that. And any questions on the consent calendar?
I did.
Okay, Terry?
Derek, on the payment to Westland, do we know how much was for Timpview and how much was for Shoreline?
We do, but I do not know that off the top of my head. So if you're looking at it, there's the combined warrants that'll have all of those payments to Westland combined. And the warrant summary would be the individual payments, but we don't specify them in the descriptions, which one's Shoreline and which one is versus Westland. I'm happy to get that and report back if that is something that is of interest.
I know we approved the ELL curriculum, Vista Higher Learning recently, but I couldn't remember which meeting. And if this is the same amount that we approved it for, does anybody remember what meeting
Let me look.
it was at?
It was the
September,
one that Michelle Eldridge presented to us.
I thought it was September 12th.
Here, let me go look.
But I could be wrong. Might have been at the end
Yeah,
of August.
it shows it for 183,400 for Lexia early. Oh, that's the early intervention. Just kidding.
Yeah, it was the Vista.
Psych.
Because this number doesn't look familiar to me. That's why I'm asking.
What's the number that?
I know it was 200 and something.
We can always go back and look and see, but the amount typically as a check will not get cut if there's a greater than a 10% variance in the PO. So I would assume based off of this check getting cut that there was less than a 10% variance from the PO.
And I think, do you remember, Terry, when she gave us an up to amount on that?
I remember that.
And then there was a final amount afterwards, so that's maybe why those two amounts don't match.
Is that different?
Was it in June?
So there's two approvals. So the first one that she was asking for, that I think you're referring to, is the actual curriculum for 7 through 12 for English language learners, and then there was a software purchase, and I think that was the more recent one, was the software purchase. But I actually think that might have been in August, not September. I think this was
Could it have been the June 13th?
I just went back. Definitely not September. Or the end of August. I just have a quick question while we're looking at that, Derek, about the payments to Alpine School District. Just what are those? We have a bunch of different amounts there.
Is that in the one that's less than 50,000?
Yeah. They just, I mean, they're small, but they just were kind of repeating. So then I was like, what are we paying Alpine School District for over and over again? So it's not urgent. I just was curious
I'll
about it.
look into it and report back on that one.
That's great. Thanks.
This was June. Yeah, that's what I thought. I think it's in the August 13th.
Derek, don't districts pay each other when they have students who attend in other districts?
That is correct, but
that's
I don't believe this is it. Typically, the ones that are inter-district billings, we do a single check for those.
It's still less than 220, but maybe.
Oh, that might be it. Okay.
That would make sense.
And I'm not talking just HR, I'm saying as a district.
Okay. For the public listening, he said we get printing done at Alpine Printing, and so that might be what that is. Not Alpine District.
Alpine School District does some printing for us.
Alpine District does the printing. Thank you.
Okay. All right, any other questions for Derek on the consent calendar? Okay, if not, then we'll go ahead and move back to our business items tonight, section E of our agenda. And we'll start tonight with a consideration to approve the out-of-state student travel, and this is the Provo High cheer to California. Let me get there. All right, is there a motion?
I move that we approve the Provo High School competitive cheer trip to Anaheim, California in February of 2024 for the USA National Competition.
Thank you so much. Motion made by Board Member Partridge. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Board Member Hales. Is there any further discussion or comments, starting with Board Member Partridge, if there's any? None? All right, we'll go ahead and vote then. All in favor with aye? Aye. Any opposed with nay? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Business item number 2, consideration to approve an out-of-state student travel trip again. This is for the band, the Provo High School band, to go to California.
I move that we approve the Provo High Band and Orchestra trip to San Francisco, California in April 2024.
Thank you so much. Motion made by Board Member Hales. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Board Member Boyce. Any further discussion, starting with Board Member Hales, if there's any?
I don't have any.
Okay, we'll go ahead and vote on that then. All in favor with aye?
Aye.
Any opposed with nay? Okay, motion passes unanimously. All right, item number 3, we have a consideration to approve the fee schedule adjustment for the Provo High AP Art class. Derek, do you want to just explain that real quick?
Yep, so what you have before you is a trip that was approved for them to go to the AP Art class trip to New York City. But due to state law, we're going to have to add that to our fee schedule. And so what this is doing is adding it to our fee schedule. This will be the first vote that the board approves, and it makes it tentative. It gives it triggers essentially a 1-month period now that public has the ability to provide input, and then we'll come back again in next month for approval.
Okay, thank you so much. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the fee schedule adjustment for the AP Art class at Provo High School to travel to New York City.
Thank you so much. Motion made by Board Member Boyce. Is there a second?
Can I ask, is it for just Provo High School? I thought it was for Timpview too.
For the fee schedule, it is. Right? We're doing the fee schedule for both arts.
Okay. Should I change it? I'll do that again. Okay. I move that we approve the fee schedule adjustment for the AP Art classes of Provo and Timpview High Schools to travel to New York City.
Okay. Motion made by Board Member Boyce. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Board Member Hall. Any further discussion, starting with Board Member Boyce, if there's any? No? Okay, we'll go ahead and vote then. All in favor with aye?
Aye.
Any opposed with nay? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. And for the public on that, if they want to give input, they can find that on the website, correct? Okay, we'll have that up soon, I think. Okay. Item number 4, consideration to approve the shoreline bus routes. Derek, will you give us a quick summary there?
Yep, so what you have before you is due to the school moving from Dixon over to Shoreline, it changes the walk zone. There's currently an area that is that would be proposed, not proposed, that's the wrong word. There's currently an area when we move that is on the east side of the freeway and train tracks. Due to the risky nature of those walking routes, the board has the ability to deem them safe routes where we are not funded by the state for these routes. This is the board saying we're committing our own resources to ensure that those kids make it to school safely. And so what we're asking that the board do is approve the area as outlined in study session to be transported by our transportation department once Shoreline is opened.
Okay, thank you so much. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the shoreline bus routes as discussed in study session.
Thank you. Motion made by Board Member Hales. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Board Member Partridge. Any further discussion, starting with Board Member Hales?
I don't have any.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll go ahead and vote. All in favor with aye?
Aye.
Any opposed with nay? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Item number 5, consideration to approve a large purchase request. This is regarding the fencing at Wasatch. Derek, if you want to talk about that real quick.
Yep, so what you have before you is the fencing that we're proposing that we add to Wasatch Elementary for that facility. You know, due to the scope of the project, we believe adding this additional fencing above what was already in the plans would be a value add for the safety of anybody on our site, those students and anybody that just happens to be visiting the site. And so this is an increase asking to approve enhancing the safety around the walls that we have at that site.
Okay, thank you so much. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the large purchase request in the amount of $147,185.88 for fencing at Wasatch Elementary School.
Thank you. Motion made by Board Member Van Wagenen. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Board Member Partridge. Any further discussion, starting with Board Member Van Wagenen?
Quickly, Derek, remind me, this money though is coming from the contingency for the project, is that right?
That is correct.
Contingency, okay. I just want to say thanks again for letting us kind of pause. I appreciate seeing the renderings of what the fencing will look like on the retaining walls, so thank you.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Okay, we'll go ahead and vote. All in favor with aye?
Aye.
Any opposed with nay? Okay, motion passes unanimously. We're going to go ahead and remove item number 6 from our business items. We did not discuss that in study session today. We're moving that to a later date and time. So we'll move on to item number 7, consideration to approve our TSSA plans. And Wendy, I think, do you want to speak to that?
So this is a motion to approve all of the TSSA plans for each of the school, which is required by state code, so that those funds can be released to the district and the schools can use that money as outlined in their plans.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the TSSA plan as discussed in study session.
Okay, I'm looking at the wrong one, but I think that's right. Okay, thank you. Motion made by Board Member Hall. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Board Member Boyce. Any further discussion, starting with Board Member Hall? Okay, we'll go ahead and vote.
I just want to say,
go ahead, Lisa.
When I read through and saw at the end of all the, not just the TSSA plans, but those TSI plans, how many teachers, community council members, PTA, and parents, and they had parents representing different groups of students at their schools. I just, and knowing those planning efforts have been going on for some time, I loved having a chance to read over those things and felt like it was a great window into the way that our schools are really targeting improved instruction and learning for their students. And so I just wanted to say thank you to all the people who've worked so hard to make those.
Okay. All in favor with aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed with nay? Motion passes unanimously. Item number 8, a consideration to approve school TSI plans. Wendy again.
So this doesn't really require through state code that these individual plans are approved, but that the board is informed of them and that these are our school improvement plans, so that you're aware of those goals. And so it would be good to have you approve them, that your eyes have been on it, but it is not required by state law.
Okay. Then can we have a non-required, but we're going to do it anyways motion?
I move that we approve the school TSI SIP plans as discussed in study session.
Thank you. Motion made by Board Member Boyce. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Board Member Partridge. Any further discussion, starting with Board Member Boyce?
Again, like, I'm sorry to be a nerd about it, but I really love this whole part. I love this whole thing. And I just wanted to say thank you to, I loved that some of the schools put in there how this would contribute to teacher retention. I loved that some of the schools put their baseline data. For me, that's so helpful to see that. I'm excited to see reports back to show the growth. And I really loved just the effort that went into it. That's all.
Okay. All in favor with aye?
Aye.
Any opposed with nay? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Item number 9, our consideration to approve the LEA specific licenses. And maybe Jason, would you like to go ahead and speak to that?
Yes, thank you for this opportunity. So each year we bring to you, the school board, our teachers who are on an LEA specific license. So they have a bachelor's degree and are working on endorsements in specific areas to be considered fully licensed. And we ask for your approval.
Okay, thank you so much. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the LEA specific licenses as discussed in study session.
Thank you. Motion made by Board Member Partridge. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Board Member Hall. Any further discussion, starting with Board Member Partridge? Okay, we'll go ahead and vote. All in favor with aye?
Aye.
Any opposed with nay? Motion passes unanimously. We'll move on to item F, our consent calendar. We'll go ahead and move forward with a motion.
I move that we approve the items on the consent calendar.
Thank you so much. Motion made by Board Member Van Wagenen. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Board Member Hales. Any further discussion, starting with Board Member Van Wagenen?
No.
Okay. All in favor with aye?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed with nay? Okay, motion passes unanimously. All right. We are going to go ahead now and have reports from our student board members, Will Widener and Max Joyner.
Okay, you want to go first?
Thank you, board. Just recently, in September, we had a first student council meeting. No, second. Yeah, it was our second student council meeting held at Provo High School. Some of the board members were able to attend. Board member Van Wagenen, board member Hales, and Superintendent Dow were also there. We talked about some things that the students had wanted to bring up and were like important issues to them. Will has some of those.
Yeah, specifically we went over an AB schedule versus just having every class every day, dress code, phone policies, attendance, all issues that are really impactful to students. It was a great opportunity to hear from students and what their thoughts are. And I think the district student council is a fantastic way for students to more directly participate. We're setting the agenda. Our next meeting is going to be held at Timpview, I believe November 8th. So we're really excited to see what we can discuss there.
And just recently we sent out a survey at Provo High School about the new attendance policy that is put in place this year, and just recently we've been starting to get feedback on that, so it's good to hear what students have to say about the new procedures in place. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do board members have any questions for our student board members?
I would love to get a copy of, like, if there are minutes kept from those meetings, because you're bringing up these great topics like the AB schedule and dress code and phone policy and attendance. I'd love to hear the students' thoughts on that, or at least a summary of them.
So the current plan is we'll actually have students start taking minutes at the next few meetings, and we'll go over how to do that. Just Gina thought it would be a really fun way to get students more involved.
That's great.
Thank
Fun
you.
is a strong word.
Is there a topic or two that you guys have been discussing that you want to give us, like a 1 or 2 minute summary on kind of how the students feel about it?
I can. Phone policy. Yeah, phone policy. That's a big one for us. We like having our phones with us, and of course, there's a lot of concerns about if we have our phones with us, are we actually paying attention in class? But I do think that there is a right way to regulate phones, and in the meeting we were able to bring up a bunch of examples of, well, here's what some teachers do. We really like these ways because it gives us access to our phones if we need it. It's more positive reinforcement rather than negative. So there are just a lot of good ways to deal with phones, but we should make sure those ways are kind of more broadly spread across the district.
And one of the things that mainly Provo High students had issues with was the attendance policy, which is the reason that we sent out the survey to gain feedback from that. Just a quick overview of the policy. How it works is basically if a student accumulates, I think it's 4 hours or 240 minutes of missed class, which can come from tardies or unexcused absences, they're put on a no participation list, which means like no extracurriculars, no sports, any after school clubs, and students can make up that time in ARC, which is a class that's held before school, during lunch, and after school. So there was some concerns when how that played out, but we're getting feedback on that and how to address it.
Is it similar to, it's not too different from Timpview?
Yeah, with the Timpview policy, like a tardy, it's a certain number of points. So for an unexcused absence, it's like 5 points. For a tardy, I think it's 1 minute if the tardy, or not 1 point if the tardy is under 15 minutes, and each of the attendance codes has its own point value. You can make up points in ARC attendance recovery.
Anybody have any questions for our two student board members? No, you guys are doing a fabulous job.
I have one question.
Oh,
And
go
that's
ahead,
just,
Lisa.
is this, like, I'd love to hear the demand, like, since you're our first ones, right? Like, how is the demand on your time, or in terms of balancing your school stuff and the other, your debate and all the things you're doing extracurricular wise, as well as this? And you don't have to tell us right this minute, but I just think looking forward, it'd be good to be getting that feedback so that we make sure we're doing this in a way that supports you also and doesn't make it harder for you to keep up.
I've been pretty busy this year. I do think, though, and this could be something that we take in consideration if we're ever looking at changing the student member policy, that my senior year is the only year I possibly could have done this. I definitely could not have done it my junior year. That would not have been, like, there is no possible way that I would have been able to make things work. So I think that it is a lot of time, but I've really enjoyed it. Max, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, just kind of to echo what he said. Yeah, junior year, not possible whatsoever. But yeah, having this opportunity for us to, you know, not only to have a voice, but to get a perspective of what's going on, I think is very important for students and for us to be able to relay that to our peers. Is fantastic.
So can I just get clarification there? Were you recommending that we change our policy to be seniors only as far as student board members go?
I think
Because
that
I
wouldn't
believe
be a
right now
terrible change.
we say juniors and seniors, right, in our policy?
Mhm.
Okay. That's an interesting thought. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, and I was going to just tell you before you sit down, thanks for being our guinea pigs. I mean, you guys are our first student board members, and you're really paving a pathway that, I don't know, lots of people will come behind you, and so thank you for being our first ones to take the plunge. We appreciate it.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see. Where did my agenda go? All right, we'll go ahead and give the time to Derek now for the business administrator report.
Recently I've been to two different events. One of them was with the business administrators, and that meeting. Let me see if I can get it pulled up here. That meeting, we ended up covering a lot of topics. I think there was something like almost 40 topics that we covered, and it covered a wide range of different things of, you know, what different districts are struggling with, and just trying to see what other districts are doing. You know, one of the things that was discussed was the change of transportation funding this year in state law. And you know, you had a massive range of impacts. One district lost $1 million in transportation funding, and this was a rural small district, so it was a big amount for them. And that's because the change was they capped the amount that they could be receiving. In state law, it says that the state will fund up to 85% of the costs. But what happened is there were some districts that were getting essentially reimbursed up to 100% just due to how efficient they were, or due to their miles and minutes, because that's how it's calculated, is with miles and minutes. And so by putting that cap at 85%, it really hurt some districts who run efficient. So that was one of the things that was discussed. We discussed at-risk funding, and where we're going with our legislators on that, and they were interested in the white paper when that's finished, asking that it gets passed out to all of them also. So that was a good meeting between the business administrators. Also just got back from a self-funding conference, because we just recently took our district self-funding our insurance, and it was insightful in terms of you know, a path forward that you know, to take with our organization to further enhance our benefits for our employees.
Okay. Thank you so much, Derek. All right, we're going to introduce something a little bit new. Well, not a little bit, totally new tonight. We typically in the past have done board member reports and have rotated through board members. But we are implementing something new today called the Board Member Roundtable. Each board member will give a report on the committees they've been assigned to. And each board member may not report on all the committee assignments they have, they may report on one versus another, et cetera, and board members may share the reports versus, because we share committees, but we're gonna take a stab at it tonight and start a board member roundtable. So, I'm gonna deem Melanie our first person to start. We're gonna start to my left. I hope that's okay, Melanie. And we'll just go ahead and go down the line and give our reports, each of us, and we'll see how this goes.
Okay, I'm going to be talking about the, my head just went out.
Sorry, I caught you off guard.
The, too many committees.
Schools facility?
That Facilities Committee, Capital Facilities Committee. So myself, Gina, and Meg all sit on this one, and currently we're in the position of the district is putting together a whole list of all of our assets, all of our buildings, everything. We're putting in a timeline of like when they should be maintained. We saw a bad video of something not being maintained in our district, and so we need to have those maintenance schedules put in place, and this is going to take a good year or two to get it all finalized, but I think it's going to be really profitable for the district, and I'm excited to see where we go with that. I'm reporting on the Legislative Committee. I serve on that with board members Partridge and McCabe. We have met with 3 of the legislators in our area recently just to coordinate about education bills that are coming up and just talk about local concerns. And we have one set up, I believe, to meet with one of the senators, the local senators, coming up in a couple of weeks. So we're trying to continue to build relationships with them so that we can work together with them on education legislation. We are, as Derek mentioned, working on a white paper for some add-ons for at-risk for funding at-risk students. We've also been discussing SJR 10, which is the proposal to remove the constitutional earmark for education funding. There are those of us, me probably the most vocal on this board, I think, about the concerns that we have about that. So we've discussed that with our legislators and let them know about our concerns. So we're kind of working on that. And then we're trying to kind of keep up with interim committees as much as we can, and then keep up on what possible education legislation might be coming.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I don't really have much to report on. Coming up in 2 weeks, so I serve on the Provo Education, the PEA and the PESP liaison committee with Lisa. Were you going to report on this?
No.
There's not much to report yet.
No, go.
So coming up, I'm new to this because I haven't done it yet. But we will be meeting, we have our first liaison meeting for the year, right, coming up on Thursday, 2 weeks, Thursday the 27th, maybe, 26th. So I will just say I'm looking forward to being a part of that and kind of seeing how it goes and being in that process. So the other committees, I'm on PTA, but Jennifer's going to.
You go ahead and do that. PTA one. That's
Others
fine.
too?
Yeah, I've got other ones.
This is why I can take on the the meeting for Dixon. Mine are intermittent committees. So Provo PTA Council Committee, Jennifer and I are part of that. So basically, twice monthly we meet with the Provo PTA Council. So right, the PTA Council, who's over all the PTAs in our school district. And one meeting on Tuesday is just their board, and we kind of discuss things going on in the districts, the concerns at their schools. And then the second meeting of the month with them, another Tuesday, we meet with the principals, come as well, and usually have some type of presentation. That Michelle Wages is the president this year of the council, and we're there to update them on board stuff, and then they keep us informed of what's going on in their schools. Would you add something? Do you have anything to add?
We've just been talking to them lately about some of these discussions we're starting to have and letting them know that we'd love them to make the parents aware so we can get feedback on things like Big Springs, the Dixon site, those kinds of things.
Yeah, and I will say it seems that these, for the PTA council, they appreciate the board's interest and involvement in keeping them informed and whatnot.
Okay. I serve on the communications committee, which is basically serves as a liaison between the communications department and the board. We meet quarterly, and the last time we met was before school started, so it's been a little bit. But just something I wanted to highlight real quick is that our communications department has put an increased focus on communication from our new superintendent. And so if you are in the district or you have a student in the district, I hope that you have noticed the generous amount of communication coming from our superintendent, which we're so thrilled about. If you're a parent, you'll receive an update, a video update on Fridays. If you're specifically for parents, if you are an employee, you will receive a video update on Fridays specifically for employees. And we also have, Wendy and communications, I shouldn't say we, I have no part in this, but but I love it, have started a podcast, and episodes go out every Friday, and it's been a way to increase our communication with our constituents and with our students and with our parents, and so it's been really successful so far. I'm looking forward to our next communications meeting where maybe we'll get some stats on how it's being received. Some thumbs up from communication, and I will report on that when I have that meeting next.
I will say at the PTA meeting today, they expressed gratitude. They've noticed the increase in communication and are very grateful for that and love that. So I also want to report on kindness committee. We just had our annual retreats for our kindness students. We do one for the elementary students. We had about 260 or so students there, and about 120 at our secondary retreat. We had some keynote speakers, different ballroom. Our theme this year is Team Kindness, and it was really fun just to talk to them about what that means and how they can implement that in their schools this year. And this is, I think, the 9th year we have done our kindness initiative in the district, the 8th year of having the retreats, and it was just really rewarding for me this time to step back a little bit and see how rooted it is in our district, and this is who we are and what we do, and that this is important to us, and to see the enthusiasm that the students have and the things that they're going to go back to their schools and do, and the support. All the principals come around lunchtime and visit with the students and start to talk about the ideas they want to implement specifically in their own schools, and it's just fantastic to see. And we also have gotten some feedback that the teachers are seeing the Team Kindness shirts and want to buy them. They love them so much. So we're going to talk about that in our next meeting. But and then also on Utah School Board Association, I'm on the board of directors, and just wanted to report on that. We haven't had a meeting in a little bit. We'll have one later this month. But I did want to let you know, we talked earlier when we were at our regional meeting about possibly having a JLC Joint Legislative Committee meeting this month to bring up some concerns with the SJR 10, as Gina alluded to. So I did reach out to the USBA leadership on that and let them know that that was discussed at that meeting, and we would really love to see that. And so they said they are discussing it, and they will let me know what they decide. But that was very recently, so I don't know how soon it will be, but I want to let you know that I've at least followed up on that, and I hope that we can have something like that moving forward as the School Board Association. So.
I am on the evaluation committee. They met last week, and I asked Boyd if it was necessary for me to be on this committee, and he said he looked it up, and no, a board member does not need to be on that committee. So it only meets once a year, but that's one less meeting a year.
It's a great
The finance committee, Melanie, me, and Lisa are on that, and Derek presented in the last meeting about the 16 increment tax increase at the last board meeting. If you don't understand it, make an appointment with Derek, and he will explain it to you, and you will understand it, and then you'll walk out the door, and then brain will get foggy. So don't worry, it will take multiple meetings to understand. And then we're also deliberating on the current TIF requests. And then Lisa and I are on the foundation, and we just had the golf tournament 2 weeks ago, and it was a success. They earned more money than they had before, and they're really grateful for the sponsors that played a big role. The deadline for the teacher grants is October 18th, and we're expanding the number of recipients, so it's open to all district employees that run a program for students, and the application link is in the weekly employee newsletter.
Can I add on to that?
Yes.
For those grants, for anyone listening and for building administrators to take back, this no longer needs to be just teachers. Anyone involved in running programs to support students in our district can apply for these grants, and the $500 cap that there used to be on these grants has been lifted. So if there is a need, and if you think I could do an amazing thing with my students if I just had the funds, I would encourage you to apply to the foundation for a grant.
I will add, in our PTA meeting today as well, we were able to talk about the grants and pass it on to the board, and they were going to reach out to their schools too, and just kind of another plug for it. So that was.
Sorry to interrupt.
No. I am on the safety committee, and it meets once a month, and Jason Garrison runs that. And honestly, there are so many things that they are working on. I can't explain everything, so I only wanted to highlight a couple of things. One of them was the hillside building has an unsafe roof. Chad and his team are working on installing front office cameras at each school, and the maintenance and the school nurses are installing AED cabinets. So if you see someone that's having a heart attack, go grab one of those as soon as they're installed. And a subcommittee is going to be started to review all the current safety and security policies, and then they're going to turn it over to the policy committee. Did anybody talk about policy committee yet, or is that your job?
Lisa's going to.
Okay, Lisa's going to. And then I had a question. I am on the Shoreline Construction Committee, and since we did our tour 2 weeks ago, that doesn't seem like it was that long ago. And I thought, are we supposed to get back together as a committee to plan the open house and the ribbon cutting and that? I did not know if we need
I
to
had
do
a similar question about Wasatch, because I was looking back and saw that there had been a construction committee, but I don't think we've been convening those,
Don't know.
right?
The construction committees really haven't been meeting since
But do we
we
need to?
approved the bonds, like, or since we approved that, yeah.
Approval and
Yeah, until we hit the approval and signed off on it, we haven't had any other construction meetings on those.
Would you like to resurrect those so that way we're having a regular monthly meeting about the projects, or quarterly beyond the board construction updates?
No, it was more along the lines of, when are we planning the open houses and the ribbon cuttings and all the things that happen once these projects are finished? Who does that, and when does that happen? And 'cause I've never done that before.
I think communications should do that. Honestly, that's I think they would do a great job, and I think, Terry, you could work with them on it. I nominate you.
Yes. I've already done that today, right?
Sorry.
That's true. Okay, I'm done.
Awesome. Wow. Okay, so on the policy committee, I feel like I'm just learning so much about how this works, but it's mostly it's cabinet members and 3 board members that meet, but I understand that as policies are being developed, teachers' voices and student voices can be pulled in to help come up with drafts of policy, and that committee is a space where we can talk about those things and look at drafts that then can come forward in this setting, so that, just so people understand the process, then they can have a first reading, people have time to give us feedback, and we can think that through and make sure that the policies we're writing are the right things. Recently, we talked about the right of conscience that we did discuss in our study session today, having that form there and making sure we have a procedure in place for students and parents to be able to opt out of curriculum due to religious beliefs as well as right of conscience. And then we talked about a language access policy at our recent meeting. We're required by House Bill 302
to delineate how we provide language services to parents. So we're working on a policy that will help guide our practice with making sure that we have those services available in the correct way. We also have talked a little bit about looking at our student travel policy and our approach for how we handle and support student travel and student learning opportunities in the right way that fits in with the needs of our whole district, and is fiscally responsible, but also allows students and teachers to have those experiential learning opportunities. And then a little bit we started talking about, I know teachers have been talking a little bit about like curriculum and classroom materials and things, that how they can use their classrooms as supportive learning environments for all students. We also talked a little bit about reintegration policies, and those are just kind of in draft stages. But the other committee I sit on, besides ones that have been mentioned, is CAPS, and I love it. I'm going to just quickly give you a quick CAPS update. If you haven't had a chance to go over and visit the CAPS program, it's so cool. They're off to a great start. They have 48 students right now working on 20 projects, and so I asked for just a quick overview of some of them. They are doing projects to include like market research for Threads, Skillco, and Gradually. They have a food truck business plan rolling forward. You're welcome. An employee training video for New Skin. And what's so great is these are real projects that really get integrated and used, and they get to have real business experience. A photography product for New Dawn, and they're doing a project for Provo Bicycle Collective, designing multi-housing condo buildings, a product testing tank for Hall Labs, and the creation, this is a personal favorite, of Halloween costumes for three children who use mobility aids, and finding ways. They've found funding and sponsors for some of that to make some really cool Halloween costumes for these students who use either, in this case, I think it's a walker and a wheelchair. And then they have had some changes in their medicine and health science strand this year, and so with a new teacher there, they've been able to expose students and give them upfront kind of a look into job shadow experiences in different types, like emergency medicine, nursing, dental, orthodontist office, bioinformatics, a skilled nursing facility, et cetera. And then those students also are participating in projects for houses. So it's an exciting time to see them working. They have like these project boards where they're managing, you know, as project managers, and working with their clients, and just the communication skills that go on. It's really exciting.
Okay. Thank you so much. One of the purposes I failed to mention of us doing the board roundtable is actually for all of us board members to be informed on what's happening in each other's committees. So this is actually very informative and helpful for me as well. So thank you so much for everybody for your report there. We'll go ahead and give some time now to Wendy for the superintendent's report.
I feel like it's 9 o'clock and we're all turning into pumpkins.
We are.
So I'm going to be quick. Some of the travel that I have approved over since our last board meeting is we do have some of our CTSOs that have already applied for their national conferences if they qualify. So TSA will be at a national conference, Orlando, Florida, June. FCCLA will be in Seattle in June. And then they also have a leadership meeting or competition that's happening in Layton, Utah. Notice I said Layton. You're welcome. And then Provo High School boys basketball is going to a tournament in Las Vegas during Christmas break. And then we have track and swim, track for Timpview, swim for Provo High, going to invites in St. George. The track invite is in March and the swim invite is in January, so to give our students some great opportunities there. And then just in a couple weeks, juniors and seniors are going to be going on college visits to SUU and Utah Tech at Timpview High School. So that'll be November 10th and 11th. So that's all the travel that I've approved. And then I just want to wish Jared a happy birthday. It is his birthday today. And should we sing? I think we've tortured him enough over the last couple of days with various things, but He's been a very good sport. So I do want to mention that October is National Principal Appreciation Month. And I just have tremendous respect and gratitude for our principals. And that is often a very thankless job. It seems like when you walk into an elementary school, all the elementary kids want to hug the principal. Then when you walk into middle school, they want to kind of pretend like they care about you, but kind of don't. And then when you walk to high school, they either have a really good relationship with you, or it's like, I don't want to have anything to do with you. So it's varied, and principals deal with a lot of parent issues and are resolving a lot of stakeholders, and it takes a lot of political skill as well as just the ability to do what's in a student's best interest and to get everybody on board with that, and run all of the instruction and be in classrooms and manage emotions of teachers and employees. And I have tremendous respect and appreciation for each one of our principals. We have incredible principals in Provo City School District, and it's been a real privilege to get to know them. So anyway, if you see a principal, you should probably take them cake or a cookie or a Diet Coke, something like that, sometime this month. So strategic planning invitations went out yesterday, and so I'm getting all of the RSVPs back for the most part. Most people are accepting that, so our first meeting is next Tuesday, and I am super excited about that. And then I think the last thing I just want to highlight is last week we had some school emergencies with Canyon Crest and with Wasatch Elementaries, and I really appreciate our communications team being really responsive and trying to be supportive, and we were able to kind of go through and troubleshoot some of the issues with that, and appreciate Derek's team and the operations side to get things fixed as quickly as possible. Like, I really didn't think we were going to be able to have school for Canyon Crest, and then we were able to. And so just trying to figure out those logistics to make sure our communication is really good going out to our families, because I know that's frustrating. But I want you to know it's always a priority to have kids in school, but I also want everybody to be safe in that process. So we'll keep working on that. And I hope everyone's following the social media of all of their schools, because our principals are rocking it. Like, it is amazing, the things that they're doing. And if you want to watch car karaoke tomorrow morning, Daryl and I are driving the vans for the teachers at Timpview High School. We're going to be there like, 6:15 in the morning? Yes. And so we'll be driving vans, so maybe we'll post some car karaoke tomorrow morning. You can look forward to that.
I cannot wait. Okay, this is going to be fabulous. I might even wake up early to see that. All right, since we're all turning into pumpkins, according to Wendy, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Motion made by Board Member Hales. We are adjourned.